probably a good thing you can't actually see more than the camera shows you because I've been trying to mess with my lighting so I look less ghostly. And I created an improvised diffuser for the light that I have over my art desk, and it didn't work. But I spent like 5 minutes on it, so no big loss. 5 minutes, a few sheets of tape, a few sheets of copy paper, no joy. I still look extremely washed out, mainly because I'm about as pale as you can humanly get. It's a challenge. For a short time during the summer, if I maintain the same timing for when I do the videos, I'll actually have natural light from my windows here. But that's going to be a short time and it's going to be a while yet. Although I have crocus blooming in my garden and daffodils 4 or 5 inches tall with buds showing. So spring is here and I'm excited about it. And I think I better share the feed so that people can remember that I'm here and come see me. So if I'm lagging for a second and kind of off in space, that's why. Not a big deal. It's just the thing that I have to remember to do, and I haven't yet figured out how to do it smoothly. So those 4 or 5 inches tall with buds showing. So, and here we go. No more echo. So let's see. I think I said I was going to talk about a bunch of different stuff tonight. Whether or not I am going to get to all of it depends on who comes to see and what y'all want to hear about. There's been some stuff on my mind, stuff that I mostly can't talk about in public right now. And yes, I'm very pale. That has nothing to do with anything other than that's just the way I am. I used to be able to tan. Really, I did. I'm not kidding. I could go out in the sun without spontaneously combusting. Unfortunately, my body decided that it was at war with my melanin in my cells, and I am now spotted and splotched, and hey, yeah, I'm still have places where I have pigment, but not very many, and the face is not one of those. So I am pale and getting paler. Oh, sound is wonky again. All right. Well, that's since I wasn't really paying attention. Better sound something. Ah, it would help if I plugged things in. All right. Let's see if that does any trick for the sound. If the sound is a problem, let me know. And Becky, it seems to happen when you show up. Julian, it's always a safe bet to blame Sanford. Okay, I have plugged in the microphone, which it was not plugged in before. So what you were actually hearing was the sound from my laptop, which is wonky, and I know that. So I'm hoping that I have fixed it. And I'm hoping somebody will tell me that, and I realize that it lags. I just don't know how much. Okay. Good. That's a promising thing. It's echoing. That would probably be because it's probably pulling from both. So we're going to unclick the desktop audio and see if that fixes it. Echo after plug-in. Yeah, the mixer was selecting both desktop audio and the microphone. So I think I've fixed that. And as far as the volume goes, gosh darn it.
That either turns it up or turns it down, and I will be good gosh darned if I know which direction is which. Grandma, I'm trying to fix it. Alright, so I think that turned it up. It's echoing still. It's only got one audio input right now. We can try that. I honestly don't know what to do about... Is good? Good. Okay. I have no idea what I was talking about. Good. Excellent. Yes. So the steps are plug in the audio. Make sure you turn off the dual audio so you're not trying to mix from both. And make sure that your volume is turned all the way up. Okay. I'm seeing everyone report that it's good. Hi. So I opened the video by talking about the fact that I tried to fix my lighting. And I have a 4-foot LED shop lamp, and that does fun things when I put my hands up and I've got all that white. But the problem with the shop light is that it's so much light that it just blows my skin out because I'm so pale. And that's not the red hair entirely, because I have an autoimmune disorder where my body attacks my melanin. I used to be able to tan. I really did. I used to sunbathe, for goodness sakes, when I was in my teens. But I tried to fix the light. I taped sheets of copier paper up over it to make it a kind of an impromptu 5-minute diffusion, like I would do for if I was going to be photographing in a light box. Well, it didn't work for me. I'm still seeing myself as being really blown out. I have a supplemental light source off to one side. I was hoping that the camera capture would get that. The long story short is that between the audio and the lighting, I have serious doubts about ever being able to improve the quality of my setup here. I want to keep doing this. I enjoy doing it. I'm not sure how much quality I'm bringing to... I like to produce high quality products, and I don't feel like this is it. Mom, I like this sweater too. It's cotton. It looks like it should be wool, but it's cotton. It's comfortable and it's not too warm. My current workplace runs cold year round. And so I find that I wear sweaters to work. My last job, I wore geeky t-shirts and jeans all the time because I had my lab coat on 90% of the day. Ugh. I don't know how to fix the echo. I shouldn't have anything else interfering with... Yes, well... This is friendly, and it's nice to have chat with people. And this definitely is not something I'm trying to use for marketing because, well, yeah. Yes, it is new, and practicing is good, and having feedback from you all is great. I'm going to have to do some research. I kind of just dove into doing this because I needed to talk and feel like I was talking to people, and I didn't take the time to really research how to set up one of these things. So it's it's improvised, and I'm going to have to figure out how to fix some of the things I'm doing wrong, because things that I assumed that I could fix, like the lighting, the way that I would do the photography, I didn't fix. So it's going to, the bouncing the light off of something is definitely the way I would do it if I was shooting a portrait thing. I'm not sure I can bounce the light. If you guys are hearing a weird noise in the background, this is supposed to be a quiet little neighborhood, and somebody's car alarm is going off. Anyhow, it's a shop light. I'm not sure I can angle it towards the lighting. No, I think you're right about the lighting, Mom. Part of it is that I was trying to actually have lighting in this. If I turn the light off, then it gets really grainy. But yes, I'm improvising. I'm learning. Every week is a new experiment. So this week we finally are starting to have. Yes, there was a car alarm. It's finally stopped. That was an odd thing to have happen. I don't know whose car alarm that was. We live on a dead end road. I mean, I'm just like, we've got like 3 neighbors. Oh well, no gunshots. Although that does happen, but that's because somebody has a range not far from the house. So it's nice to live here. I would like to live further out in the country. I don't know that we're going to manage that. We are giving serious consideration to moving. So right now I'm looking for a job that would be 100% remote. Not only would it be healthier for me, I had to stay home from work today because it was a bad lung day, and there was no way I was going to manage 9 hours in a mask without having serious pain and breathing difficulties. Plus, if I can find a position that's 100% remote, I can be here with my son, and he's struggling right now. So that's currently what I'm looking for. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find something. I'm a little frustrated with myself because I have a lot of oddball skills. My skill set is, people keep telling me, gosh, you're unique, and that's not really marketable. Getting back to marketing quality products, I feel like because I am so eclectic and scattered, it's difficult for me to say, I can do all these things for you, because persuading people that I can means I need to have stuff on the resume and get past HR, and I don't know. The best way to get a job really is to network, is to find somebody that can walk your resume to the right person, say, hey, this person does good things. And my network is small and as eclectic as I am. So I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. And fortunately, I have sick time and vacation time, so days that I can't mask up and go to work, then I don't mask up and go to work. I can't risk my health long term for a job. And unfortunately, right now, the company that I work for is saying that we're looking at least 2022 before they will start to drop some of the COVID restrictions. And frankly, that's insane. And I can't live with that for that long. Oh, so I've been hearing really good reviews on Starlink, which is Elon Musk's satellite internet. One of my friends on the internet, my invisible friends, has gotten it and tried it out and has been raving about how fast it is. So if I can find a job that's 100% remote, and if I can, then I can go to someplace with Starlink, and that enables me to live someplace that's lower cost of living, further out in the country, gives me so much in the way of advantage. Finding the job, that's a whole different thing. There are some things at this company that could be remote. The odds of my boss allowing that to happen are slim to none, because what I do, she can't replace me. There are very few people that can do both chemistry and microbiology, and I can and do both for the last job and this job. Ben, I have seriously given thought to buying an oxygen concentrator. I don't have an office, which is part of the problem. The company espoused one of those big open offices with the short cubicle things, and then installed plexiglass between everybody when COVID hit. But people that have offices can take their mask off when they're in their office, and my boss has attempted to accommodate by telling me that I can go be in a meeting room and take my mask off if I'm having a really bad breathing day. And I have actually had to do that a couple of times, but meeting rooms are meeting rooms for a purpose, and that's not an employee that can't breathe. So, plus the additional fact that I haven't been able to see a doctor to be through the full range of testing to see what the heck is actually going on with me. And it's possible that this is all in my head, that this is trauma based, not an actual physical limitation. Although there's arguments that go both ways on that. And the company has made it very clear that it doesn't matter if you get vaccinated. They're not changing things because of whether or not you've been vaccinated. So even if I could get vaccinated, which might or might not happen, I'm not in the age range for it. It'll be a while. I'm low down the list, and I'm fine with that. I'm pretty sure I've already had it. I'm highly unlikely to get it again. So I'm neither giving it nor receiving it. The restrictions are liability-based, and I'm going to try a different doctor, Mom. The first chest doctor that I went to, it was the height of the COVID panic a little over a year ago now, and the things that he told me were medically incorrect enough that I knew they were wrong. And yeah, no. So I'm going to have to try a different doctor, because I'm going to need to go in and get tested. And I know that they keep saying, oh, we're not going to do that. But honestly, it's been a year. They've got to do some testing. I mean, we were able to get Sanford in and get him run through some tests, which he needed. So, yes, well, Mom, I don't know what you're hearing about the vaccination, but there's a lot of misinformation on the internet right now about the vaccination. And I've gotten to the point where I automatically unfriend people that are sharing anti-vaxxer propaganda that is very wrong. Very, very wrong. And, yeah. So, the vaccine does not alter your DNA. The vaccine will not give you COVID. The vaccine is very, very safe. We've had, at this point, millions and millions of people take the vaccine, and there have been some allergic reactions. There are very, very few of them, And none of them have been fatal because they're making people wait either 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And the 30 minutes is if you have a known severe allergic reaction. So they are being safe. They are being very careful about this. We now have 3 vaccines. Johnson & Johnson was just approved this week. And okay, I don't know where she's seeing about the lot of bad reactions to it because that's not the data I'm seeing. And I'm looking at multiple different sources. I'm not looking at just the CDC because, frankly, the CDC has handled this badly from the beginning. The CDC, though, is saying that we should hit herd immunity, vaccinations or no, by April. So it's... Now, Mom, if she's saying that by a bad reaction, if she's saying that you're having a robust immune reaction to it, that's normal. People do run a fever, they do get achy and tired for a few days, and that's actually a good thing. You want to have a robust immune response to a vaccine because it indicates that it's activating your immune system. So that might be what she's referring to. There are, as far as severe adverse reactions or deaths, they're actually lower than was anticipated, and they weren't expecting much, which is why they got the thing. Now, there are people that are having pretty strong immune responses. Mom, as isolated as you are, you're probably fine. You're not coming into contact with people. And honestly, if you haven't caught it by now, you're probably not going to. But I see a lot of crap on the internet. And if I tried to correct all of the wrong crap on the internet, I would never do anything else for the rest of my life. Although if I could get paid to do that, my dear son today decided he was going to help me with job hunting. That was entertaining. He got an education. He's done some mock job searches before, I think for a school project, but he was going through there and he's like, you can get paid $100,000 to do marketing. And I'm like, yes. Not what you want to do, and not what I want to do either, but yes, you can. The problem with this pandemic has been that it has been so politicized that the next time we have a pandemic, it's going to be bad. This was, and I know I've said this before and I'm going to keep saying it, this was pandemic on the easy setting. Relatively low lethal effects from this. That we are seeing some people have, and I've got a friend that's dealing with this right now, and as a matter of fact, I've dealt with it, but we are seeing that there are some people, the numbers I've seen are as high as 30%, that just don't shake it for quite some time. We are seeing virus-mediated autoimmune responses, but that can happen and does happen with any kind of virus, so it's not a specific COVID reaction. We're looking really closely at this virus in ways that we don't normally do, so we're going to see some effects that have been happening, but we aren't necessarily measuring them usually. Honest Pete, I don't know whose car alarm that is, but I'm about to have words with someone. And it's the next door neighbor guy. I will be polite. We don't talk to him. He yells at us. So the thing with the viral mutations that are being made a big deal of right now is that is also normal and expected. Coronavirus, and we've studied quite a few of them. There's SARS a while back, MERS, which is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, and a number of different kinds of cold. those are all coronavirus, and we have studied them. Um, Coronavirus mutates fairly readily. Part of how the vaccines were designed was to target a part of the coronavirus that does not mutate very often, and when it does, it loses its infectious ability. So the spikes on the coronavirus, which are the part that they mimicked with the mRNA vaccines, those parts don't change very often because they're part of how the virus docks and unlocks the cell. So the vaccines that we have will actually protect against any of the seriously infectious coronavirus variants. The other good thing is that coronavirus mutate towards reduced lethality. So basically what happens is if you get really sick and you're laid up in bed, or if you get really sick and you die, going with what Ebola does to you, then you have less chance of passing your viral load on to somebody else and passing on the contagion. Because this happens, the virus strain that causes more lethality, more illness, those strains start to either die out, they don't get passed on as quickly, so they're supplanted by the strains that you can have and have a bit of a sniffle and be walking around and not realize you're sick. So those strains are the ones that we're going to start seeing pop up. And they are less lethal. They still might make you sick, but they're not going to make you as sick. The other thing that we are going to start to see now is some herd immunity. Coronavirus will eventually become just another cold, just another flu variant. It's going to take probably a while. There's going to be people that will be badly influenced by it, but there are every year for the flu. I mean, flu kills more people than we're usually aware of, although this year we paid attention because of the initial comparisons to the flu. It's not the flu. And because it was a novel virus, it has killed a lot of people. Julian Sanford frequently goes out on the porch in his bathrobe, so maybe? No, probably not. There's children that live next door, and we like them. So epidemiology is interesting. It's often a game of statistics, and sometimes that makes it a little easy to lose track of the personal toll of, and I know I do it sometimes because I'm talking about the fact that this could have been worse, and it was bad enough. I mean, we didn't want it to be worse. I'm glad it wasn't worse. It was not nearly as bad as the initial projections. And honestly, at this point, we have such an atmosphere of fear that it's going to be difficult to recover from that. Something that came up on Jim and Ian's live stream earlier this week was the fear being used as a power grab. That's almost certainly true in some cases because it is easy to get people to hand over control because they're afraid and they're hoping that you can help them. The fear can't entirely be explained away by that because that's not the motivation of everybody that is afraid. There's a lot of people out there that just don't have the education. I wound up chatting with a longtime friend of mine. I've known her for 15 years, and she's a lovely woman and older than you are, Mom. And I had to explain to her the difference between DNA and RNA and why the vaccine couldn't possibly manipulate her genes. But she didn't, the basic biology, she didn't have the basic biology. Oh, the fear has definitely been deliberately encouraged. Media can sell fear. They can't sell hope. They can't sell positive encouragement. They can't sell people on being willing to take small risks for bigger gains later on down the road. So people were definitely encouraged to panic because it gets eyeballs on the screen and it gets clicks on the websites. And it makes me angry. There's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. It's not like we can go back and prosecute these people. If Andrew Cuomo gets prosecuted, Andrew Cuomo, Mario, whichever Cuomo it is that's governor of the New York and murdered people by putting them into nursing homes when he knew they were COVID positive. It's not something we're going to be able to prosecute in most cases. And yes, but even beyond that, exactly, Becky, if it bleeds, it bleeds. Even beyond the whole propaganda thing, and I'm sure there was some of that. I know there was some of that because it was an election year. Had COVID not happened in 2020 in an election year, then we might have been looking at very different stories. We might have gotten less of the politicization. I don't know, and I don't think there's a way to be able to tell, other than next time this happens, and it's going to happen again, we're going to have a mess on our hands, because if the next time is more lethal than this time, we aren't going to know what to do, because this isn't going to hack it. And I mean, I have a dear friend who told me that if we had been able to lock down very quickly, very hard for those 2 weeks, we could have stopped it. The problem is, that's an overly optimistic, and given this friend, that's hugely ironic that I would be saying it's overly optimistic, but it's an overly optimistic take on things. Yes, a complete lockdown done early enough could have stopped it. There is no way we could have locked down that early. It was already here before we knew it was here. China was doing their usual thing. This one was too big for China to suppress completely, but most people have no idea how many diseases China downplays and pretends don't exist, or that they're really not that big of a deal. This one got out of hand. Now, the other little rumor that I keep quashing every time I see it is that this is a bioweapon. It was not. I have looked at the genome, and I've read the papers by people who are a lot more studied than I am in that particular department. But human beings introduce order. Natural changes, mutations do not. The indications are for a shift that led for this virus, and it's in line with other natural shifts that we've seen. Now, did it have something to do with the wet market in Wuhan? Probably. But was it deliberately spread? No. Yeah, no, undoubtedly, Becky. And multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, you hear all kinds of nasty stuff about that out of Africa. China? It's there. I know it's there. Will we ever know the numbers? Nope. That, by the way, that one's scary. When I was first studying multi-drug resistant tuberculosis and looking at what it takes to treat, it's darn near untreatable. That one gets loose, we're going to have problems. Tuberculosis is no fun. And I mean, the impact on the global psyche of tuberculosis the first time around was bad enough. I can only imagine what it would be like the second time. Will we get it over here? I don't know. There's a lot of variables. The same reason we probably won't get Ebola here in the U.S. Ebola is frightening. Any of the hemorrhagic fevers are frightening, and not just because you start oozing blood out of every orifice, and that includes eyes and ears and yeah. Um, yeah, Mom, I'm aware of the drug-resistant TB here, and it's endemic in certain populations, like the homeless. We don't have some of the really bad strains that they're finding in Africa yet. We are really close to coming up with a vaccine for AIDS. But the really interesting thing about that with HIV and AIDS is that it is doing that same thing that I was talking about with the coronavirus. It's mutating towards reduced lethality. Again, for the same reasons. Also because we don't have the super spreaders that we did before it started being educated. Yeah, no, I know it's here, Mom, and that's part of how I knew about it was med micro and epidemiology talking about what we're seeing. The microbiologist who mentored me while I was still in college talked about she was for a while, oh gosh, the name is, oh, she was a contact tracer. So she would actually go around and talk to people, interviewing them if they had come down with a case of certain specified diseases. Syphilis was one of them. Syphilis is treatable if you catch it in the primary or secondary phase. By the time it goes to tertiary phase, and the quat phase for syphilis is in the brain, but tertiary is incurable. Once it goes to that, it's no longer curable. One of the phases syphilis goes through is a whole body, nasty, weeping rash. And the people that she was dealing with that were coming up with syphilis were sex workers that were working with a nasty whole body separating rash and passing it on to people that way. Well, that's end of secondary phase coming into tertiary. And they weren't getting treated and they were passing it on. And it's just, oof. Mom, multi-drug resistant TB is airborne. And it stays airborne for up to 7 days. So even if you were in that room without some kind of a respirator, you were in danger. Bioweaponry, Julian, I'm not going to talk bioweaponry. We can talk sometime fiction and theoretical, but yeah. Had I gotten through school a little bit earlier, I was very interested in infectious disease. Sanford kind of balked at the idea of me going into working with it a lot because, well, you bring these things home with you if you're not careful. Not that I would have been not careful, but your risk level goes way up. Yes, Mom, definitely you. I mean, I just can't wrap my head around. He is alive, despite the way it looks right now. His color is actually much better than it was yesterday. Sorry, honey. Yeah. Some places take safety a little bit higher priority than other places. Part of why I've been so dubious about masking from the beginning is that not only my background in microbiology, infectious disease, and epidemiology, but I've actually been through respirator training, and I know what a proper respirator looks and feels like. And there is no way in heck that I would try to wear that for that many hours a day. Ha. Becky, thank you. I made that for him. It is very warm. That's actually why we did that. It's a Sherpa blanket, so it's double fleece, minky fleece on one side, which the cat loves, by the way. She's like making biscuits on that as soon as she touches it. And then it's got the fluffy Sherpa fleece on the other side. So I made it for him, and he put it on and said he wasn't going to take it off until April. His arthritis has been bad this year, which is part of the reason I'm looking at moving towards warmer climates. I'll have to adjust. This northern girl is not used to temperatures like that. It will get better. I am much happier now that I can actually see the sunshine, and there are flowers coming up, and I can go sit in my car at lunchtime and take the mask off and eat. I am trying to take some classes to add some skills, and I'm trying to be hopeful. And some days that's harder to remember than others, but I need that. I need to not dwell in being stressed and worried. This week was not easy. There was a lot that was going on this week. Some crap at work, some medical stuff for both Sanford and Johan. So we're starting to get results on that, which is calming me down because I can deal with answers. I can deal with action plans. I can't deal with waiting and not knowing and not, yeah. So, Mom, he has been doing lower carbs because I have been doing low carbs. And so he tends to eat what I'm eating. And I find that the low carb and intermittent fasting is how I can lose weight. And I would like to get at least another 10 pounds off of me. I have goals. I have plans in April, and I would like to, well, I'm never going to have a bikini body, but I would like to have a dress body. Johan is doing better. His new diet is a pain in the butt, and we're still trying to figure it out. But he is already starting to feel better. He's losing weight, which is good for him. And so we're starting to make some headway on the physical stuff with Johan now. We're just dealing with some of the mental health kid stuff because kids are not meant to be all alone for a year. And his sister is too busy working to be able to get over here and play with him. And that's life and part of adulthood and growing up. There's nothing wrong with it. So, oh, good. I'm glad that worked for you. The roll-up chicken is like infinitely versatile. I almost felt guilty blogging the recipe because it's so easy. But one of my friends wanted it, and writing the recipes down and putting them on the blog is how I can find them, because I can go to my website and type something in the search bar and it pops up, rather than me trying to figure out where I wrote that down. I actually have an old lab notebook that I use for my experimental recipe notes because it amuses me. The food science part of my life. Now, there's something I'd love to do professionally as food scientist. Unfortunately, these days that requires a specific degree, which I am not going to go back and get. And it's not something I could do remotely. So, yeah, I would say on stuffings for that, the drier the better. The frozen raspberries, we decided would probably have been even better if it were like maybe dried cherries or craisins. And the roll-ups I've been making the last couple of days are even simpler. But a friend of mine really, really hates kimchi. And he was talking about kimchi and got me thinking about it. And I like kimchi. So, as a keto-friendly snack, I've been taking slices of deli meat or cheese and rolling it up with some kimchi in the middle and eating it, and that makes a very, very yummy snack. Spicy, but that's not a bad thing either. But I like kimchi, so a lot of people do not like kimchi. Funky cabbage with tons of spice and garlic is definitely not up everybody's alleys. Yeah, echoing the brie and croûte, I would almost think maybe even throwing some chopped up nuts in there too. I don't know that they'd add a whole lot to flavor. Maybe walnuts. Um, but we did the aged Gouda and bacon, and that was really good, and very strong flavors seemed to really go into the chicken breast. And somebody asked me if you could use um, uh, chicken thighs, and of course you can. I just happened to have this week, when I bought the chicken breasts, they were on sale, and they were actually less expensive than the boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And I um, tend to buy the boneless, skinless stuff because I had one kid, and she doesn't live here anymore, so I could probably change things, but I had a kid that would not eat meat if it had a bone in it because her teeth might touch the bone, and autistic sensory issues. Even if she didn't actually feel it, she felt like she was going to feel it, so she couldn't eat it. But it's also easier for me to prep doing a boneless, skinless than, and I will pay a little bit extra to go that route rather than assuming that I'm going to have the time and energy to properly butcher out and prep the meat. I will buy large cuts of meat. The restaurant supply house, I buy big pieces of pork and beef, and I break those down. But that's a project, and I do better with that. Probably just laziness on my part, but there's times I am willing to pay the extra to assume. I am sure Sanford remembers that Louisiana is nice and warm, Julian. There is definitely a lag. I am not absolutely certain how long the lag is, and I don't know if it's because I'm using OBS stream rather than a live stream directly through YouTube. Could be either, could be both. I'm not sure. And I don't think there's a way to fix that. That one I think I'm just going to have to leave with. It does mean that if you guys do a comment and I don't respond to it for a minute and then I randomly come up with it, that's why. It's because I just saw it. I am going to be, my next little experiment is going to be a low carb / gluten-free banana bread, because bananas are not low carb, but they're lower, and I have bananas I bought before everybody went on the diet. Johan can't eat them. Sanford won't eat them. He had a traumatic childhood experience with bananas. And so that leaves me to finish off the bananas, and I don't want to do regular banana bread and blow my diet, so I'm going to try, like, probably, I think it's generally an almond flour. Yeah, Ben, that's kind of what I have done as a cost-benefit analysis. I will buy it when it's on sale, generally less than $2 a pound. They're really big around here. I can feed like all three of us on a half a breast, so... And the boneless, skinless thighs are running $2.50 a pound, which is more than I want to pay for them, especially when I can get the chicken breast. Now, you do have to handle it right if you don't want it to come out dry, and that's part of the reason I did the chicken roll-ups. By rolling the fatty cheese inside the chicken breast, I'm getting all that moisture. It's his story. He tells it better than I do, but the gist of it is that his family lived in Ohio, and his mom and dad, and himself and his little brother. And the rest of the family lived in Kentucky. And during his childhood, they did not have the interstate. So driving down to see Grandma and Grandpa was an all-day experience. And they drove a pickup truck with a bench seat. So on one trip, Sanford was very small, and he was actually riding in the footwell of the passenger side of the pickup truck with his mom's feet next to his mom's feet and a bag of bananas. And so they had bought this bag full of sack full of bananas, and everybody was eating bananas and tossing the banana skins back in this bag. And the heater was running, and the smell. So Sanford's got a perfumer's nose. He's acutely attuned to smell and taste. It's actually part of the reason he started smoking when he went into the military, because he couldn't stand the smell of all the other people around him crowded into a barrack. Literally was driving him crazy. So he started smoking because he'd been told that it would deaden his sense of smell. Of course, 40 years later, there's definitely addiction going on there, but that's why he started it. So his experience riding for multiple hours next to these overripe, overpungent bananas being hit by the heater, yeah, he can actually eat bananas, but he really doesn't want to smell them. He likes banana bread, but actual, like, just bananas, no. And when I peel a banana, I have to make sure that the skin goes right out of the house. So, yeah. So I actually don't buy bananas all that often, even when I'm not on the low-carb diet, because I don't want to further traumatize my husband. Right, and he actually has a thing with chicken, too, although I'm curing him of that. Because he ate a lot of chicken, and most of it was poorly prepared. It was dry. It was flavorless. More chicken nuggets than he wants to think about. He still won't touch those. But I have been, over the last 8 years, gradually introducing him to chicken that can be moist and flavorful and not taste like chicken. It's been fun. I mean, he was totally resistant to the idea of doing roasting chickens, but I do a lot of things with aromatics or rubbing spices under the skin and fats, and it's not the same experience as you just throw a bird in the oven with maybe some salt and pepper if you're lucky. So that's been fun, teaching him how to like chicken again. We do a lot of pork, and pork is the same way. If you don't handle it properly, it gets dry. Despite the fact that there hasn't been a case of trichinosis in the United States since the 1960s, it is still the big bugaboo. We were talking about fear with the epidemic. Trichinosis is the same thing. You're probably not going to get trichinosis from pork, especially not the farm-raised pork. They're treated for it. And you probably wouldn't want to eat rare pork. I certainly don't cook it that way. But you also don't have to cook it till it turns into shoe leather. And I'd like to do pork chops or a pork roast that it's just done, and it's nice and juicy that way. And it's totally, it was funny, our friend Todd had, I don't think, ever had pork properly cooked, and I was feeding him pork chops off the grill one time, and he was like, I actually like these. It's funny how we make these early impressions of food, and then they just stick with us. It's like my dad and mayonnaise. He got sick at a picnic one time and assumed it was the mayonnaise, and it might have been the mayonnaise, but he, to this day, he can't look mayonnaise in the face without getting sick to his stomach. I've never been a big fan of peanut butter, although I'll do it in some versions. Blackberry jam I have no problems with. Actually, looking forward to blackberries this year. My blackberry patch in the backyard is nicely established, and we're getting it nice, trimmed up and trained so that we can actually reach it. And I am hoping for a blackberry harvest this year. Sanford loves blackberries, and so do I. Now, my raspberries that I planted back there, a couple of them are doing quite well, but most of them didn't. Grandma, I don't think you had that many choices. Peanut butter and jam is simple and cheap. And there's nothing wrong with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So pigs used to get fed trash, and that was fairly common practice for a long time. It was a way of getting rid of food trash that was actually not a horrible thing. But because it wasn't being cooked, because why? Then yeah, that's where we started to get the trichinosis. It actually impacted Cincinnati in big ways. My invertebrate zoology teacher told us that whole story, which was fascinating, about the little things that changed the course of history. And yeah, I remember picking huckleberries behind your house, Grandma. Not the same kind of blueberries that everybody else thinks of, but like red huckleberries and blue huckleberries. Definitely lots of blackberries. We picked salmon berries up in Alaska. I miss those, but I don't know if you could grow those around here. Yes, food scraps now have to be cooked before they're fed to any livestock for just this reason. Oh, and that does lead into one of the other topics that got brought up in a chat I was part of earlier today, talking about weird medical things. So one of the treatments for autoimmune disorders that's being tested, and they're actually testing it, and I think in Europe, and I think Australia as well, is deliberately giving humans intestinal parasites. So the idea there is that you create an antagonism, that your immune system is so used to, for the generations that it's been going on, up until very, very recently, when modern medicine pretty much wiped out internal parasites in most countries. Not all of them, and there's still places that have a horrible parasitic load, and it takes a toll on the people in ways most people don't think of. But autoimmune disorders have been on the rise since the era of modern medicine. And one of the theories is that we are no longer constantly battling parasites and diseases. And so left to its own devices, our immune system turns on itself and it starts to attack itself. As someone with multiple autoimmune disorders and autoimmune disorders that run rampant in the family, I was very, very interested in this. It's not something I think I would try, but it is being studied as a legitimate treatment for, in particular, IBD, which is the worst version of IBS, and Crohn's disease. Both of them are gut disorders, so it makes sense that you'd try a gut thing. What they're using, or at least the last one that I saw that they were using, are it's not a fluke, but it's basically a parasitic worm. They're very small, and they're normally found in pigs. So they don't live very long in the human body because we're not their intended host. They'll live for about 6 weeks. The other thing they don't do is they don't burrow through the gut wall, which a lot of parasites do. And when that happens and they insist in the body, it can lead to some pretty serious problems that the parasite never intended, because that wasn't what they were trying to do, but unexpected, and it happens. So the idea behind these is that they can actually be used to put the disorder, the autoimmune disorder, into remission. Any kind of wild meat you want to cook very well, Julian, because otherwise you'll wind up with unintended parasites. Grandma, I think the echo may be on your end. I don't know that I can fix that. I mean, it's like when we were hunting caribou. I can remember looking at one of the caribou liver, and it was just riddled with all these white pearly cysts of whatever internal parasite it has, and there was no way we were going to eat that. But people did for generations and generations and generations, and they always had interesting intestinal flora and fauna. And that's part of the reason that we didn't have so many autoimmune disorders, because their bodies were constantly trying to fight that off. Of course, that also leads to long-term effects on your brain development, on your health in general. It is one of the reasons that a lot of African and Asian countries have the stigma of being lower intelligence. It's not because the people aren't intelligent, it's because from infancy they have competition for all of the nutrition in their guts, and that means that their brains are not as well fed. They also don't get as much fat in their diet, which is absolutely vital for children to have a fully developed brain that is capable of developing the intelligence level. And honestly, it's little things. It's little as if they have shoes and can wear shoes, then that reduces their parasitic load exponentially. It would make such a difference. But it's one of those things that people are working on it, and the world is getting wealthier. The world is not getting poorer overall, despite the media to the notwithstanding there. And on that note, because we come back to hope, the world is getting better. We can make a difference. And sometimes it's just the little things, like getting to talk to y'all. Grandma, I will see if I can solve the echo problem. But, yeah, bear is the same way up in Alaska. You don't want to shoot a bear that's been feeding on fish. At least not to eat. Well, folks, it's been lovely to talk to you, but I've taken up an hour of your time, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for listening.